to your first technique of orange belt. Exciting times. You've passed your first 2 belts, so you're moving on to the next one, right? So jab, we know. Parry, maybe we don't know, and lead hook, we know. So these are all techniques that we've been through before, but parry is maybe one that we need to just cover and have a little look about how this moves into our combinations. It might have been something in class that you've thrown singly, but throwing it into an actual combination, that just takes a little bit more time, a little bit more technique to see how that fits in from your jab to your lead hook. So this one, unlike a lot of the other combinations, there's a little bit of a break in our pattern. So I'm not flowing from one hand to the other. The transfer of weight is slightly different. So I'll show you the technique first. So it's the jab, very confident with throwing now, parry and lead hook. One more time. Jab, parry, lead hook. A little bit faster, so full speed. Lead hook. There we go. So let me break it down for you. The jab comes straight out in front. Nice and easy. This hand's up by my face here. Now, what I'm doing is I'm parrying a punch coming towards my face from my opponent, usually a jab if I've thrown a jab. So as I've thrown the jab, I've had a jab come straight back at my face, okay? Or a cross, particularly maybe for this combination, because I'm trying to throw a punch over the top. So I parry this punch as it's coming towards me. Now, there's 2 ways you can parry. Some people like to push their parry across to the side. I like to stop it right in front of my face, and there's a reason that I do this. It's because I'm not overextending, or I'm not transferring my weight from left to right. I like to parry right in front, and it's easy for me to bring my hand back to the position that I want it. I would like it in. But if I extend it over here, it's harder for me to bring myself back around to throw my next technique. So I jab, I parry right out in front. I imagine like I'm a little kitten. So I've got my hands out. I'm almost like turning my hand into a focus mitt. So I'm catching that punch as it comes towards me. So I catch it out in front of me to stop it, and I throw my lead hook over the top. So now I've parried, the weight's come onto my front foot ever so slightly. I close my hand back in, and I throw my lead hook over the top. I throw this one slightly longer, because I know somebody's throwing quite a long punch to keep me away. So it's jab, parry, lead hook, and I turn my hand over the top here to get over the top of their guard if they manage to pull that hand back nice and quickly. So it's jab, parry, remember like a little kitten's paw, so it's a push out in front. I don't really want to push to the side, but if that's your style, that works for you, and you manage to get back into this position, that's absolutely fine. So I parry in front, throw my lead hook on top. I'll just do that from the side profile. Jab, parry in front, lead hook. Look, nice and tight here as well. So I'm not dropping this hand as I throw my parry, because that will leave me open to other shots. So one more time from the side. Jab, parry, lead hook. Cool, so moving on to our second technique now, which is a jab, lead slip, body hook. So jab we know, hooks we know, body hooks were, maybe it's something we've practiced in class, but it's something we'll cover in a little bit more detail here. Slips we know, but not body slips. So there's a different way that we throw this as to if I was standing up straight. Okay, so all I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw my jab. I'm going to transfer my shoulder across from here to throw my slip. As I do this, instead of standing nice and tall when I throw my slip now, I'm going to bend my knees ever so slightly, so that drops me down and opens up a body shot for me. Somebody's thrown a cross across the top of my shoulder, so they're in a left stance as well. So they've thrown across, opened up their rib cage for me. So as I've thrown that slip and all that weight's transferred onto my foot here, I'm in a good position to throw a body hook. So I rotate my hand around from here, twisting my shoulder back, so I'm still thinking about that catapult motion, and I turn my hand up and into their ribs. So really where I want to be hitting is 3 of these little ribs underneath my main rib cage. These are called your floating ribs, and that's where somebody's liver sits, underneath there. So really lovely place to punch somebody, but it's a jab. I tuck my head down, I let that cross come over the top, and I hook to the body. I've made this ever so slight angle in my punch because I'm trying to come up and underneath those ribs. I'm not coming in a straight fashion here because it's much harder to distribute power in this rotation. But just making a slight curve with your body, it's easier because you're driving up with your legs rather than just using the muscles in the side of your body, your obliques, to pull you across to the side. You're using your glutes, your quads, and you're using your obliques to rip you up through that punch. So there's more power in this upwards rotating pattern than just straight across. So I'll show you sort of two medium speed. And one much faster. Cool. And from the side, jab, slip, weight onto that front leg. Almost 45 degrees with that punch. And I bring it up and it hits that body. So one more time. Jab, slip, weights on the front leg, rotate up, and I hit that body. It's up to you whether you want to pivot on this shot or not. For me personally, I don't, because it takes too much time to pivot and rotate round into that, and it pushes me a little bit too high. I like to throw, keep my foot nice and stable, throw my punch, and then reset to my position. Alright, third technique we're moving on to now. Probably one of the more basic ones of this technique. It's a long range technique. Basic, but it's got to be done correctly to look great. So it's one of those techniques that if you muck up, it doesn't look so great, and also it's very, very hard to hit on somebody if you don't throw it in the right way as well. So it's all about being long on this technique. So it's a jab, cross, roundhouse, kick, back leg. So let me show you 2 times, just sort of a medium speed. So it's jab, cross, pivot. I rotate on this front leg now. Make sure you're keeping your hands up. I'm just bringing my hands down for demonstrating. This chamber comes up. I rotate on this foot. Rotate, rotate, rotate. And I pivot and reach out my kick on the end. Same leg that I kicked on lands in front. So would this happen if I was throwing this in sparring? Possibly not. I might hit my target and bring it back down behind me. But just for the purposes of our syllabus and our grading, we put it down in front. So now I'll go for the opposite stances. Jab, cross, pivot. Throwing these punches exactly the same way that I would do if I was just throwing them individually. So jab, cross, pivot, round kick, front leg, land in front. A little bit faster for you this time, guys. And down in front. So, is there anything particularly special about this technique? No, but it's putting those basics together. So if I can't get these basics together now, I'm going to find it much, much harder up the grade as I start to rotate, twist, stop, slip in different places. So if you can get these basics down now, it's going to make a big difference. So the jab extends right out. It's really nice and long now because I'm trying to transfer that weight a little bit more onto my front leg, because as I pivot this foot forwards, my back leg is lighter than it would usually be if I was throwing across. Sometimes when I throw across, I want to be nice and strong in this position, but I'm leaning ever so slightly more forwards because I want to reach out to my opponent so I can just gauge that range when I throw this round kick round, because otherwise I'll just be slightly short when I throw that kick. So here, now I pivot this hand back. So as I pivot this hand back, my chamber comes over and round. So jab, cross, I pull it back, my chamber comes over and round, I'm pivoting and pivoting and pivoting, and then kicking on the end. So jab, cross, I come up onto the toes, pivot, kick, and down in front. One more time. 1, 2, 3, down in front. Just from the side. 1, 2, 3, down in front. One more time. Cool. Basic, but you've got to make it sharp. we're moving on to travelling front kick, which is the first kick from your orange belt. So all we're going to do here, I'll demo this twice, just moving forwards. So hands up, chamber up, we're kicking off the front leg for these kicks, okay? So chamber comes off that front leg, I'm going to shuffle or travel off my back leg, and then I'm going to extend off of my front leg, which is going to be my front kick. So we're all assuming that you can throw a perfect front kick, otherwise you need to go back to the other previous grades. So it's travel off this front kick here, off the back leg, and kick. One more time. So what I'm doing is, if I just show you from a side angle, I'm coming up onto that toe to travel my foot forwards. I'm not sliding on the side of my foot, because that's, first of all, quite painful for your ankle, but it's a lot of traction going on with your foot there. So if I come up onto the toe or the ball of that foot, it's going to be easy for me to slide on. Okay, so it's chamber up onto the ball of the foot, and slide. It's a little bit easier for me to travel on. So one more time from that side profile. Right, now we're moving on to travelling side kick. So this one I use more often, but all we're doing, so we're expecting you to have already known how to throw that side kick, guys. So what I'm doing here is I'm turning this foot to travel on the smallest part of contact on the ball of my foot, okay? So side kick chamber comes up, I turn onto the smallest part of the contact of my foot, and I travel forwards and then kick. So nice and easy. I'll just show that a little bit quicker. So turn the foot, chambers up, and kick, and I'm travelling forwards. So it's harder for my opponent to see. So one more time from the side. I turn that foot, I come onto the most minimal contact part of that ball of my foot, so it's easier for me to travel. Chamber comes up, extend that leg out. So turn, chamber up, and kick. So one more time from the side there. Okay guys, so now we're moving on to a back kick, which is our first kick where we're actually rotating and spinning. So this is where it starts to get fun in your syllabus. Happy days. So all I'm going to do now, two ways to do this. So there's a more advanced way and a more basic way. What I'll do is I'll teach you the basic way first, and then we'll come back and have a little look at the advanced way, alright? So I'm going to step across with this left foot. So I'm stepping across, I'm turning my heel towards my target, okay? I'm turning my head around over my shoulder. So what I'm doing is rotating, rotating, rotating. So I can now see my target before this leg even does anything. So this is the kicking leg off the back leg. So if we just go back to that, it's step, heel looks towards my target, my head turns over my shoulder, and now I lean the weight onto the foot that I rotated on. My chamber comes up, so my heel is pointing towards my target, and my heel is pointing towards the ceiling. I push my leg out, throw my kick, and rotate down into the opposite stance. So it's not always the case that we'll land in the opposite stance when we're sparring, but in our syllabus it's imperative because I'm going left, right, all the way to the end of the hall, and then I do exactly the same thing back. So if I show you a little bit quicker, it's that step, rotate, look over the shoulder, kick, and land down. So one more time. So step, look, kick, and land down. Just think about this. When I step, my heel faces my opponent. When I kick, my heel faces my opponent as well. And my head faces my opponent. So everything wants to go in that one direction. That's really, really important for this kick, guys. So, if we're a little bit more advanced, instead of making this full step, I just make a very, very slight turn on my foot. One, because this doesn't telegraph my kick. And two, it's a little bit faster to the target. So just straight from here, I can turn, rotate, without this massive step over to this side. If you find that rotation quite hard, take the step. It's not cheating, it's just a way to spin and rotate that makes it a little bit easier to throw that kick. So, front leg goes forwards, a small turn this time. I'm still facing, my heel's still facing in the same direction, I just haven't taken that large step. So now it's a little bit harder to twist and turn. So at the same time now, I'm going to have to lift this leg and rotate my head at the same time. So rotate my head, lift the leg, bomb, kick, and down. So if I show you that just from the side profile view. And one more time forwards.